Welcome to 25 Days of Animal Facts. Today we're talking about the Virginia opossum. They're commonly just referred to as possums, which is technically incorrect. The word possum can apply to over 100 different species, but because that's what I personally call them, that's what I'm going to refer to them as for the remainder of this video. So the possum's name is Algonquin in origin, and as you can see, they are native primarily to North America, mostly the United States and Mexico. So possums actually have really poor hearing and poor eyesight. If they don't notice you, that's probably why. It's very easy to startle them, but they are very good at climbing trees. They make use of their prehensile tails in order to climb trees, and no, contrary to popular belief, they don't hang from their tails. Baby possums may do this very briefly, like to prevent themselves from falling, but their tails are not made to support, especially an adult's body weight. Possums are North America's only marsupial or pouched mammal, and they actually have one of the shortest gestation periods out there. Mama possums only stay pregnant for about 12 to 13 days before giving birth to live young, who then migrate their way to her pouch, latch onto a nipple, and then they stay there for a couple more months to kind of finish cooking. Virginia possums are also unique in that they have more teeth than any other North American mammal, 50 to be exact. And they kind of start out with all these teeth. The only teeth the babies will lose are their milk teeth. Otherwise, what they've got is what they're keeping. And that's probably because all possums are baby. No, literally, in the wild, they only live for an average of 18 months. So please, be nice to them. I know that sometimes they can look very scary, but that's actually just one of their tactics for staying alive. Possums, especially older possums or larger possums, will rely on trying to scare off predators. They're not a very intimidating species, so they have to put on a big show, showing their teeth, hissing, and acting very aggressive. If this doesn't work, or if they're a younger possum, they will enter a state of shock where they play dead or play possum. This is an involuntary body response, and they will smell bad, refuse to move, and even stand up to things like having their bones crushed. It is a very high-risk behavior. A lot of possums do get injured during this process because some predators just kind of want to make sure, but even if a predator drags them off, moves them, even pokes around their eyes or something, they will not respond. But because they don't respond, a lot of animals do think that they're dead, and when an animal thinks that something died, it could potentially be diseased. It's in an animal's best interest usually to avoid those creatures, so this does help the possum out. A lot of animals won't eat carrion. Now, if we go back to looking at the teeth on these, you might be thinking, wow, that is one impressive predator, and you're partially right if you think that. Possums are omnivores, and they're pretty opportunistic. They're actually a pretty good predator of animals such as snakes or slugs or snails, so they're very important for pest control. They also do eat plant matter, seeds, berries, that kind of thing, and they're not above raiding our trash. You may have also heard that possums are really good at eating ticks. This unfortunately isn't quite the case. This recent myth came about from some really flawed research. So basically what happened was the researchers put some ticks on some possums, and then after a certain number of days they checked the pan and the cage that the possums were in to count how many ticks were on, and they just assumed that any ticks that were not in the pan were eaten by the possums. They didn't actually check the possums themselves to see how many ticks were still on them. Here's a really fun fact about possums. They have a very low body temperature. That's why they are not really much of a vector species for rabies. They don't have the body temperature to incubate the rabies virus. It also means that ticks are going to stay on them longer because it takes them longer for them to draw up blood. Now, maybe because they're on the possum longer, the possum has more time to eat them off or otherwise destroy them, but we don't have an actual knowledge of this happening. Anyway, probably due to those short lifespans, they also don't hibernate, so even though they do have those lower body temperatures, they are unfortunately very susceptible to the cold. This can lead to them losing toes or even ears to frostbite, which they are susceptible to. And males tend not to hang out around each other, but females may hang out with other females. They typically will also keep the males away until it's like mating season for them. And I mentioned earlier that possums prey on animals such as snakes. They're actually immune to pit viper venom, so like your rattlesnake venom, so that's pretty cool too. Anyway, I hope that you were able to learn something new or interesting about the Virginia opossum today, and as always, I definitely encourage you to read up more about them.